So we are talking with Kevin Arnold, running for Jackson County Sheriff this upcoming election. So Mr. Arnold, would you just go ahead and, for those who may not know you, just go ahead and introduce yourself, maybe talk about your background and your career a little?
Yes, I'm Kevin Arnold. Been married to my wife, Georgia, for 26 years. We got 2 children, 3 beautiful grandchildren. I currently live in the Sneads area, have for probably a little over 20 years. It's where her family raised her at. Her father was a warden, he's a retired warden from Department of Corrections. Her mother was a kindergarten school teacher in Sneads. I grew up in the Graceville community. My family's from over there, farming family. Grandfather also had a Ford dealership. I grew up working on both places. I worked hard my whole life. Hard work instilled a lot of characteristics and values in me at an early age that I've carried on into my adulthood that I still use today. I graduated from Graceville High School back in '89, went on to Chipola College, got my AA degree, and furthered my education at Troy University, where I received my Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice with 2 minors. During that time, in 1993, I went back to Chipola and attended the Law Enforcement Academy and got my basic recruit certificate. And in September of '93, I believe it was, Chief Daniel B. Ward hired me with the Graceville Police Department, so I was able to work in my hometown and start out as a police officer. I did that for several years, enjoyed working in my community, and was hired by John P. McDaniel in '96 to be a deputy sheriff for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And since then, over the last 23 years or 24 years that I've been associated with the Sheriff's Office, I moved through different divisions of the department. I was promoted into the Criminal Investigation Division, where I worked for a number of years, working all kinds of cases from burglaries, thefts, sexual assaults, right on up through the homicides. I also worked in our Narcotics Division on 2 separate occasions as an investigator, and worked a lot of cases there, getting drugs off the streets and arresting drug dealers. And over the years, I've taken other courses and things to advance my knowledge in the criminal justice field. Advanced homicide, practical homicide, death and injury. I've taken SWAT, been on a SWAT team when we had a SWAT team. Basic agent school for dangerous narcotics that was put on by the DEA. I took those courses. I'm a general instructor with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to be able to teach at the college. I'm currently our chief pilot at the Aviation Division. I fly 2 of our OH-58 helicopters we acquired through the 1033 program with the federal government. I'm dive certified. I supervise our dive team, open water, advanced open water, rescue diving. So I've taken a lot of training over the years and to try to better myself and my job and what I do. The last few things that I've taken was the Florida Sheriff's Association put on a Commander's Academy. I took that for leadership training, as well as the Executive Institute over at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I took a Senior Leadership Training Academy that I attended. So I've tried to do a lot of things to better myself and make myself be prepared to where I am today, and that's running for sheriff here in Jackson County.
Great. So what would be your top 3 goals or priorities if you were elected for sheriff for the department going into next year?
Top 3 goals? Yes. First and foremost, I want to get more officers on the streets. I've worked through patrols. I was a patrol deputy for probably 8 to 10 years before I ever promoted. So I have a lot of field work as being a deputy sheriff, working shift work, and that it takes a lot, and it told itself in working law enforcement because you miss a lot of things with your family. But I have done that for that great number of years. So I know as a deputy sheriff, what the needs are as far as in a department and that is, and the community, and that is getting extra help to you out on the road. Now, I've worked this county by myself. If you can believe that, back many, many years ago, I worked Jackson County as the only deputy on duty. Not very many times, but a couple of times for being short-staffed. And I've also worked with one other deputy in the wee hours of the morning. So I've in my career, I've worked when there was very, very few of us. And even today, with the call volume being as big as it is, we still have a need for more deputies. We generally run at 4 or 5 deputies running a shift. And our call volume has greatly increased since Hurricane Michael, with influx of people that have come to the area seeking homes or places to live because the storm destroyed a lot of homes in the surrounding counties. So first and foremost is I want to put more officers out there for a better response time. We do get complaints about it takes a while for us to get there. Deputies get tied up on calls, and the general public just don't know sometimes of how long it may take to work a burglary. Even a retail theft at Walmart can take a deputy 2 hours trying to get a video and report, and the person in custody and transported to jail and be through with it. And disturbance calls, I mean, there's all type of call volumes that we have in the county. So I want to do better response times, but I also want to patrol our neighborhoods a lot better, and even out in our rural communities, and patrol our businesses better. So if I can get more deputies working the road, that's one of my main priorities. And number 2 is I want to focus on our drug problem. There's always been a drug problem. There always will be a drug problem because people in the United States feel they have a need for that. And as long as there's a need, the drug suppliers are gonna feed that need. But it's a battle I'm gonna have to fight, and we are fighting 24/7 every day of the week. It's not just a certain time of day you can try to combat drugs. It's a 24/7 job. So I want to do that, and then look at within the department and see what other changes I can make internally with our policy and procedure, of course, updating that. But as with any occupation in law enforcement, it's not exempt. You have people that kind of become complacent in a job, and you're probably not getting 100% of what you need out of them. So I want to make some changes in the department and put the best assets and the best people I have in the best positions. So those are probably my top 3.
How would you go about funding more deputies?
There's several ways. First and foremost, I want to look at our budget itself. It's a little over $5 million. This current budget year, I believe it's down a little bit from last year, of course. The county is always looking at ways to try to save taxpayers and the county itself some money, because money gets tight, especially in times of the hurricane recovery. The amount of money from property taxes and ad valorem taxes, stuff like that, go down. So that affects the different budgets in the county. And also with the COVID slowing business sales down and stuff. So money is getting real tight, and I'm very, very much aware of that. So we've always kind of been good stewards of the taxpayers' money. As far as I know, in the times I've been associated with budget talks at the sheriff's office and the command staff, the last several years, we've always tried to give county back money. So I want to look at what's in the budget to where I might could move some money around to, yes, put toward maybe putting another deputy or 2 on the road. I can't put 4, 5, and 6 deputies between the salaries and the retirement and all that money it takes to fund those positions, but I might can do maybe 1 or 2 if I look at it and see where I can get some money from some different areas. Of course, I want to ask the county to fund me some positions. They took 6 positions from the sheriff's office back when the school board took over the school resource officers. They started their own police department. So we lost 6 deputies that I could have utilized on the road to make better response to calls and better patrols. So those 6 positions we lost, I'd love to get those back. And so there's a few other ways that we could probably look at trying to get some money to maybe fund a few extra positions.
Do you think those positions on the school board or with the SRO program are necessary for keeping schools safe?
For the school board, absolutely. Our children should be our first priority of keeping them safe in schools. Everybody has heard of all the bad school shootings from way back in Columbine many years ago, right on up to the Marjorie Stoneman shooting here in Florida. So we have to protect our kids. Unfortunately, in this world, there is evil, and there's people that want to cause harm and kill people, and those that go to our schools are interested in nothing but mass murder, and they want to kill our children. So absolutely, we need law enforcement in our schools to protect our kids.
Okay, and to your second point, what would be your plans to address the drug issue in Jackson County?
To address our drug issue, of course, is to get a good cooperation with all our agencies, local agencies, state agencies, and federal agencies. It's a combined effort. It's not a one-man show or one-man or a one-team show. It's just not strictly Jackson County Sheriff's Office combating drugs all in Jackson County. You have to have cooperation with the other police agencies. They have drugs in their communities, and it's not left up to us to solely take care of it. We need their assistance as well to maybe put members on the task force. Unfortunately, we're down to just a few members that's running as investigators with our drug task force. So if we can get the other departments, I know that they're having personnel problems as well, but we need someone that they could dedicate to help work on that task force and go out and work in all communities. We want to work in their communities, but on that task force, we combat crime all in Jackson County. So it's if someone from the city of Cottondale Police Department is on that team, they're going to help us in the city of Cottondale, but they're also going to help us in the city of Marianna. They're going to help us in Grayfield. They're going to help us in Sneads and the outer parts of the county to combat drugs. So we got to work on getting a better relationship and a requirement to get people to join in to help fight that. And like I said, it's not an easy job. It's a 24/7 job because drugs are out there at all times of the day and night. We get calls all the time in the daytime, and we get them late at night. In the wee hours in the morning, the neighbors complaining about drug houses in their neighborhood, of people traveling in their neighborhoods all hours of the night. They're down to a residence, they're there 5-10 minutes, and they leave. Another vehicle comes down. So they're all over the county, and we're not the only county combating this crime. We got surrounding counties that are having the same issues we are, and we want to work with those. And we got a real good working relationship with the counties that surround us: Bay County, Washington County, Holmes, Calhoun, Gadsden. And we're kind of unique as Jackson County because we're surrounded by 9 counties. I believe it's 9 counties, and we border 2 states. We're the only county in the state of Florida that does that. So we got an influx of drugs coming through on 231. We got them coming on I-10. They're coming out of Alabama, Georgia, and they're coming from Escambia County way, coming from Texas straight through I-10, and they're coming out of South Florida. So we have a drug problem here, and we're easily accessed by the roadways that come into our county. So if we can get some help, which we do a lot of times from the surrounding sheriff's office and police department, we need their help as well. Like I said, it's a combined effort. It's not a one agency problem that can solve it.
Yeah. So as sheriff, how would you go about strengthening those relationships with other agencies?
Reaching out to the sheriffs. I know several of them very well. I've worked with them over the years. They've moved up in their respective departments. Kevin Cruz was the chief in Chipley. I've assisted him back when I was in the drug unit when he was at the city of Chipley as the police chief. He's currently the sheriff in Washington County. We got a good working relationship with him. John Tate, Holmes County. I know him very well. I've been over to Holmes County quite a few times. I went and flown in Holmes County, and he's flown with me during the marijuana eradication. And he's a good guy. He's moved up through his department. He's the sheriff. Tommy Ford, Bay County, is a good sheriff. Worked with him when he was at Florida Department of Law Enforcement over in our county. And he went to Bay County under Sheriff McKeithen, and now he's the sheriff. Morris Young is the sheriff over in Gadsden County. We got a good relationship with him. Glenn Kimbrough down in Calhoun County, same thing. We know all the chiefs of the different departments and sheriffs of the different departments that surround us. Donald Lynn's up in Houston County. We got a great working relationship with him. So it's just a matter of reaching out and sitting down and saying, look, y'all got the same problems we have. How can we work together? Let's form a coalition or get part of this task force, and let's all work together. We can help you, you help us.
Okay, and is there anything that you would like to see change regarding the structure of the department or how, I guess, maybe the budget is allocated in different ways? I guess with all the talk of police reform around the country, is there anything there that you would address should you get elected as sheriff?
I definitely want to sit and look at restructuring in the department. I think there's some areas that I'd like to, again, move people to different places. I can move someone out of a certain division and strengthen another area that maybe not being utilized as much. I would love and want to and will, if elected sheriff, put someone in to help in our internal affairs division. They got a big responsibility back there. With a number of body cam videos and things that we have come in, we need someone to help oversee that. So it's more than one set of eyes. He needs that individual back there, that investigator needs some help. I want to look at putting someone else in there as well. So I want to add to that department, and it may mean I may have to take from another investigator or something else in our department to try to work that. And of course, propose these changes if I'm doing personnel, and try to acquire additional personnel to the board and present to them why I need these added positions. Like I said, we used to be at 60 sworn. We're down to 54. I have 3 openings for road officers now that we're trying to fill. So I think that I could probably get, at least hopefully get some of those positions back to add back to my department.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I have. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I just want folks to understand that we got a big job in this community. The sheriff's role is a big role that he plays. He's a chief law enforcement officer in this county, so he's involved in a lot of things, and will be involved in a lot of things, especially if I'm sheriff. Granted, you can't be everywhere at the same time. So the things that I tell people, I say, they want you to say this or say that. I'm not going to make a bunch of promises. The one promise that I can guarantee you is not promising people certain positions if they vote for me, is that I am going to work just as hard as I can to keep our community safe, our people safe, our seniors safe, and our youth safe. I'm going to work extremely hard on that, and that's the number one promise I will give. Okay, everything else has just had to fall into play as to where I can make changes and make our department work a lot better. But I think that a lot of times that people don't sit and really truly vet certain candidates or people in the different races. They go by either name popularity or because one of their friends or something is suggested somebody. People need to take it serious, especially as a sheriff. The qualifications, the background, education that this person needs and has to be sheriff of this county. And I'm just speaking for myself. If me or my family, and let's say I'm out of law enforcement, I'm not in law enforcement, but I want someone there that has the experience to know how to do the job when they go out on a call. God forbid something happens to one of my family members or friends that gets killed. I want to know that man, when he rolls up out there on that scene, he knows how to direct his people and what to do. He has the knowledge of what to do. He knows what resources he can pull on, and that he can do whatever it takes to get that solved. I need that. I don't need for someone to hopefully depend on somebody else in the department to tell them what to do. The sheriff needs to first and foremost know what's going on and know how to work it. So that's what I want as a sheriff, whoever it is. I hope to God it's me, but I'm just saying that's what I want. And I want somebody that putting the interest of the employees at the department at heart. We're very underpaid. We have been. Law enforcement is not someplace you go to get rich, but we need to look after our employees. We need to fight hard for pay raises. If it's nothing but a cost of living every year, if we go 6 years without a pay raise, and then all of a sudden we get one or we get a bonus and then they take the bonus away, then we go back to where we was 6 years ago. It does nothing for that person's retirement. All these other agencies that surround us, granted they got, Bay County's got the beaches, Walton County's got the beaches, they can offer more money, but you can do a lot of things to have incentives and take care of your employees and let them know how much they appreciate it and fight for them every day. And you can keep a lot of those employees. Now, some people's going to go, Bay County, you can go make $6,000, $7,000 more doing the same job and drive back and live in this county. At some point, that's going to change once the housing market gets squared away down there, and the sheriff will require them to live back into the county. Now, we have deputies that live in other counties that drive here. And rightfully so, because we need the personnel. They're willing to come to work here. We're going to give them a chance and not necessarily require them to live in the county. Other agencies are doing that. So I got to fight hard for the employees there, and that's something I'm going to do. And then fight for the community. Get the drugs off the street. Those families that have the members that are addicted to the drugs, we want to try to get them help. Get us a treatment center here. The sheriff is going to play a lot of roles in a lot of things. He's not just here to, his main job is to enforce laws and those that are breaking law, to arrest them and have the tenacity get these criminals off the street, especially these career criminals. That's something else the sheriff's got to do. I can be a nice guy all day long and talk about, helping this person or that person, but at the end of the day, we got to have somebody that's going to get these career criminals off the street and lock them up in jail and see that the state attorney's office helps do something and get them out of our communities. But on the flip side of that, I'm also a compassionate person too, to understanding I've been affected by it, my family, as well as most every other family I know of. Drugs are a problem. Well, we need to get some people help. They're good people, and they made a bad choice. So see if we can't help those before it gets too late, and we can't help them. But why can't we have a drug treatment center here instead of having to send them to Bay County or to Escambia County or South Florida? Mental health. We deal with mental health every single day where people get Baker acted, and the agencies here are having us to drive them to Bay County, the nearest receiving facility, or to Tallahassee. Why aren't we doing that? Why can't we have some type of mental health facility here to take our people to? And it's going to take somebody wants to stand up and be a voice and say that. And hey, you're looking at somebody that wants to do that. I've been there and done that. I've drove people to Bay County and Tallahassee. I've been a deputy doing that. I see how it hurts families, and they're asking for help. So you got to have somebody step in and do that. And the sheriff is involved in a lot of things, and that's what we need. We need a man, and that's currently I say man because that's all that's running in this race right now. We need a man in that office that's going to get involved and try to get these things done. And if I'm elected sheriff, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so this is a really big race. It's 6 people, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think, what would you say sets you apart from the other 5 candidates?
Well, I've got a lot of good law enforcement experience. There's no doubt about it. I've been doing this for over 26 years. I think some of the candidates has a little law enforcement background, and then they went and probably did a break, did something else, or maybe they didn't do something early on in law enforcement. I don't know the extent of their backgrounds. I hear some of it, and that's for them to tell about what their experience is. But first and foremost, I've worked through the department. I've worked crimes, actually worked crimes. I have that experience. As a deputy sheriff, I went and worked crime. Those cases were mine until I finished them and turned them over to investigations. As an investigator, I took those cases and followed up and solved cases and put people in jail for theft, for burglaries, sexual assault. We worked on homicide cases, and I'm not going to say I in homicide because when we have a homicide in this county, we call out every investigator, always have. Everybody comes out and takes a part in trying to solve that crime because it's that important. It's important to that family and to that victim to try to solve it. So we're going to put every available resource that we have to be able to do that. And our agency, we call in other agencies to help. And that's what I'm saying. I've worked in those homicide cases. I have not been the only one that solved them. There's a lot of people that put their input to solve those cases. Now, you may be a case agent or something over it, but I'm telling you, it's a team effort to do that. So I've worked homicides. I've worked robberies. I've got all that experience, and I think that helps sets me out from a lot of the candidates that are claiming they have experience. I've got leadership training. I've been to the different academies to better myself and educate myself what's going on. Again, I'm a pilot, so I got one other guy that helps there. I don't know any of them that fly our helicopters, but I do have that experience. It's a good experience. I'm dive certified. I enjoy that. But I've got a lot of training experience that I think sets me out. And the last thing I'll say, personality. I think I got a great personality. So you're going to have that, and then somebody with a backbone to stand up and do what's right in this community and get these bad criminals off the street and try to help people. So I think I'm the man that can do that. I think that sets me apart.
Okay, great. And I know that Jackson County has a fair amount of cold cases, unsolved murders, just like any other agency would. What do you plan to do to address those and maybe lessen that load going into the future?
Yes, and cold cases can be solved, and I can tell you that some of those cases are still being looked at. Even currently in this administration, I know a lot of people probably don't hear about that kind of stuff. And that's one thing I think we need to let our citizens know. I'm going to be very transparent. I'm going to go out and speak to the media, speak to our radio station to keep people informed of what's going on at our sheriff's office. I try to do that weekly now at our local radio station to try to educate the public. But I want to go back and look at those cases. I'm familiar with some of them just only by name basis, and I have actually seen a couple of the files briefly. But me as sheriff, I want to sit and go in there and look at those files and see and check in those cases. And I'm even considering, there's a lot of good people that have retired that have been great homicide detectives or cold case detectives. I think that could give some input. I would like to have someone come in and help me with that. Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FBI, whoever it is, I want to recruit, come in and help me with these cases and see if we can't bring them to a final resolution for those families and for those victims. There's a great many of them. Some of them are real old. I don't even know if the suspect is even still alive, but it would be nice to know who that person was and have some evidence to be able to link them to it and clear that up and say, well, this is the person that done it. I'd like to be the sheriff that could do that. And I'm definitely going to look at them.
Okay, and one more question. There's currently a Jackson County deputy awaiting trial for fabricating evidence, just talking about accountability. How would you make sure that that doesn't happen again in the future?
Yes, that is definitely a bad event, and I know that I don't know exactly when that trial date is coming up, so hopefully it'll be soon. Yes, there's some safety measures that we need to put in place. Policy and procedure definitely needs to be updated and looked at to make sure that our employees are held accountable, and then some more oversight. It's tough for a supervisor that's on the road that's having to work a zone himself plus supervisors personnel. So it is tough for the supervisor to be able to keep track of every single deputy that's on the road and what they're doing. You entrust people when they swore that oath and they put that badge on their chest that they was going to enforce the laws and defend the Constitution of the United States and the government of the United States and the state of Florida. When they swore that oath that they was going to protect our citizens and they violate that oath, to me is, I just don't have to worry. It's one of the worst things that I think that a crime that you could ever commit is that you betray the law enforcement profession that you work in and tarnish that badge that you wear. Because I take pride in wearing my badge every single day. Always have. When I swore that oath from day one to now, I abide by that. So there's things that I want to put in play. I mentioned about having someone else in the Internal Affairs Department to help go back and periodically let's review some videos. We need another set of eyes to help look to make sure that we're staying within policy and that we don't have someone that's doing something they shouldn't be. So there's a few things that I want to definitely put in place and hold our people accountable if they're doing something wrong, long before it gets to be something worse. But yeah, that's a tragic case for our citizens in this county, and that's something when it was found out that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement was brought in to investigate. So.
Can you talk a little bit more about the policies and procedures besides the internal affairs personnel?
Yeah, our manual needs to be updated. We have policies we got policies from 2 different sheriffs in it. It needs to be updated. And the good thing about the Florida Sheriff's Association is they have access. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of agencies that have went through things in their agency and brought about policy. And that's how initially it all come into place to begin with. It's to protect the agency, the community, and the employees that work there. So a lot of your policies come about when something has happened in an agency. That's how they started getting developed to make sure that employees are following the rules. So there's a lot of big agencies, sheriff's agencies in this state that have a lot more policies and procedures that they will allow other sheriffs in other counties to look at, to adopt, to change, to fit their department. So we definitely want to look at that. I want to look at some additional policies that might need to be applied in our agency that we don't currently have. And we have access to that through the Florida Sheriff's Association. So definitely want to do that. But like I said, the sheriffs are willing to work with one another. That's one good thing about the state of Florida is in all 67 counties, there's a good bond, a good working relationship among all the sheriffs.
Is there any specific policy that you have in mind right now when you say that you want to look at policies to adopt for the Jackson County Sheriff's Department?
I want to make sure that it spells out people being held accountable for their actions. Probably also want to maybe look at updating the use of force policy. I know you see what's going on in the national news. I don't want us to be doing something in a use of force that may violate some rights. There's some things I think that should be put in there to show that this can only be done as a last resort. I mean, deadly force, it spells it out as far as using your weapon and things of that nature. But there's other things that are coming into play as time changes and as events changes that we have to update and change policy and procedures. The George Floyd murder that occurred has caused a lot of departments to change their policy and procedure. And like I said, it's sad it takes something bad to get something to happen, but unfortunately, that's the way it happens most times. Before people start updating things, is something happens somewhere else, we want to make sure it don't happen here.
Okay, well, I think that is actually all I have. Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I appreciate your time, Mia, and I just hope that everyone will consider giving me their support and voting me on August 18th so we move forward to the general election.
Thank you so much for your time today, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.